Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, we're moving into the Bhakti section, following the Jnana Vairagya section, because the purpose of the Jnana Vairagya is to remove obstacles to know Krishna and see Krishna as he is. So here's text 20. My dear Uddhava, an intelligent person should never take to literatures that do not contain descriptions of my activities, which purify the whole universe. Indeed, I create, maintain, and annihilate the entire material manifestation. Among all my pastime incarnations, the most beloved are Krishna and Balaram. Any so-called knowledge that does not recognize these activities of mine is simply barren and is not acceptable to those who are actually intelligent. Now, I'm looking in the word for word to see, where does it say Krishna and Balaram? Prana Nirodhanam, and that's annihilation. Creation, Ubhavam, Prana Nirodhanam, of the material world. Leela Avatar, among the pastime incarnations. Ipsita, desired. Janma, appearance. Va, or Syat, is. Vadyam. Vandyam, barren. Girim, vibration. Tam, this. Vibhrityat, should support. Na, not. Dhiraha, an intelligent person. Well, the most beloved are my Krishna and Balaram amongst my pastime incarnations. But amongst the pastime incarnations, specifically, Krishna and Balaram are most beloved. Well, let's go on. Bhakti Siddhanta's translation doesn't include the Krishna Balaram. We'll see why it's there. It's from commentaries. Oh, Uddhava, an intelligent person should never read literature that does not describe my activities, which purify the entire universe. It is I who creates, maintains, and annihilates the cosmic manifestation. Any so-called knowledge that does not recognize these activities of mine is simply barren and is not acceptable to those who are actually intelligent. So the Sarga and Visarga topics have to be there. And they're there in the Bhagavatam. Some people consider them dry. Krishna doesn't. The BBT purport. The word Lila Avatare Pshita Janma are very significant here. The Lord's incarnation for executing wonderful pastimes is called Lila Avatar, and such wonderful forms of Vishnu are glorified by the names Ramachandra, Nrsingadev, Kurmavraha, and so on. Among all such Lila avatars, however, the most beloved, even to this day, is Lord Krishna, the original source of the Vishnu Tattva. The Lord appears in the prison house of Kamsa and is immediately transferred to the rural setting of Vrindavan, where he exhibits unique childhood pastimes with his coward boyfriends, girlfriends, parents, and well-wishers. After some time, the Lord's pastimes are transferred to Mathura and Dwaraka, and the extraordinary love of the inhabitants of Vrindavan is exhibited in their anguished separation from Lord Krishna. Such pastimes of the Lord are Ipsita, or the reservoir of all loving exchanges with the absolute truth. The pure devotees of the Lord are most intelligent and expert, and do not pay any attention to useless, fruitless literatures that neglect the highest truth, Lord Krishna. Although such literatures are very popular among materialistic persons all over the world, they are completely neglected by the community of pure Vaishnavas. In this verse, the Lord explains that the literatures approved for the devotees are those that glorify the Lord's pastimes as the Purusha avatar and the Leela avatars, culminating in the personal appearance of Lord Krishna himself as confirmed in Brahma Samhita 539. Ramadi Murtisha Kala Niyamena Tishtan Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishnak Swayam Samavavak Paramak Pamanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Nrsimha, Vaman, etc. as his subjective portions. Paragraph. Even Vedic literature that neglect the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be ignored. This fact is also explained by Narada Muni to Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedas, when the great Vyasadeva felt dissatisfied with his work. And Bhakti Siddhanta's purport. In this verse, the Lord explains that the literatures approved for the devotees are those that glorify the Lord's pastimes as the Purusha avatar and the Leela avatars, culminating in the personal appearance of Lord Krishna himself. It says the same. The BBT purport is drawing from Bhakti Siddhanta's purport. Even Vedic literatures that neglect the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be ignored. This fact is also explained by Narada Muni to Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedas, when the great Vyasadeva felt dissatisfied with his work. Very exact same language. And then Bhakti Siddhanta's gloss of Vishwanath's commentary. In the Vedic literature, the absolute truth is sometimes described as Brahman, sometimes as Paramatma, and sometimes as Bhagavan. Just to clarify the actual purpose of the Vedic literature, it is being said in this verse, quote, "Those literatures that do not glorify the pastimes of my various incarnations, which are beneficial to all living entities throughout the universe, are to be avoided by saintly persons. Even Vedic statements that are devoid of the glorification of my transcendental pastimes should never be studied by learned persons." And Vishwanath writes, quote, question, what does it mean when the scriptures should speak about you? Do you mean the scriptures indicating that Jiva and Brahman are one? And statements like Tattvamasi? Or do you mean something else? Please explain this clearly to me. Answer. In those scriptures, there should be descriptions of my activities, the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe. Considering what is the superior, the Lord speaks again. The scriptures should describe among the Leela avatars my birth, which is most auspicious for the universe, Ipsita. Thus, this indicates not only Krishna's birth, but all his childhood pastimes. If the scriptures do not contain these descriptions, they are useless. The wise person will not accept such scriptures. Foolish persons will. And this verse, 11:11:20, is commented upon in a number of places. And one of them, no surprise, it's in Brahma's prayers, 10:14:4. And this has been quoted already, yesterday. O Lord, if fools give up bhakti, the all-inclusive path, and suffer to attain realization of Atma without bhakti, they simply attain suffering and nothing else. They are like fools who beat empty husks. And commentary, Jiva Goswami's commentary. It is seen that others giving up that type of bhakti practice gyan. That type of bhakti means text 3 of Brahma's prayers. They practice gyan using hearing and contemplation of Upanishads in order to realize the greatness of the Lord. Bhakti produces the best results among all good processes. It includes all results, such as gyan. In spite of bhakti with its sweet topics, some people give up this process and throw it far away, giving it no respect, udasya. Instead, they suffer to attain realization of the self devoid of bhakti. They take great effort to observe yamas and niyamas and go here and there to obtain proper hearing and contemplation of Upanishads. But all they get is suffering. They do not even get purification of the heart. Doubt. But by practicing yoga, one can obtain siddhis. Reply, other methods give no result. So it's dismissing the siddhis of the yoga process as nothing. And from chapter 81 of Canto 10, there's a quote, devotional service to the Lord's lotus feet is the root cause of all the perfections a person can find in heaven, in liberation, in the subterranean regions, and on earth. The Lord himself says, 11:11:20, O Uddhava, the wise do not accept useless scriptures in which there are no descriptions of how I create, maintain, and destroy the universe, and in which there are no descriptions of my auspicious birth as Krishna among all the Leela avatars. Paragraph. A suitable example is given. Fools who beat empty husk become the laughingstock of others. The husk simply becomes finer and gets destroyed. The fools get sore hands. Oh Lord, everyone should worship you. That's Jiva Goswami's commentary on that verse from Brahma's prayers. Now I'm going to excuse myself and go use the restroom, so you want to pause this for a second. continuing, this verse 11:11:20 is referred to in the Rasa Lila section, chapter 32 of Canto 10, where the verse reads, text 13, their heartache vanquished by the joy of seeing Krishna, the gopis had their desires completely fulfilled, just as the Vedas become fulfilled by revealing Krishna. For their dear friend Krishna, they arranged a seat with their shawls, which were smeared with a kumkum powder from their breasts. Commentary. The service in prema of the overjoyed gopis is described. All their worries were completely destroyed by seeing Krishna. This means that their previous worry that he would again disappear had vanished. Thus, with all worries vanquished, by coming to this place with him, they understood that they would remain there for a long time for the rasa pastimes. Not only was their intense grief dissipated, but they attained the highest joy, they attained their desire, the highest goal, manoratantam. An example is given of the Shrutis revealing him with his attractive pastimes, give up their bad condition of revealing various philosophies and concluded with the ultimate meaning. The Lord said, 11:11:20, O Uddhava, the wise do not accept useless scriptures in which there are no descriptions of how I create, maintain, or destroy the universe, and in which there are no descriptions of my auspicious birth as Krishna among all the Alila avatars. Sutta Goswami says, the concluding verse section of Canto 12, chapter 12, 69. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the son of Vyasadeva, Shukadev Goswami, who destroys all sin, and who, although fixed in his own bliss with no distractions, became attracted to the pastimes of Krishna and mercifully spread the Bhagavatam, which describes Krishna and reveals the rasa of his pastimes. Paragraph. Thus, the final revelation of the Shrutis is the rasa pastimes, filled with the highest prema. By this, the Shrutis become successful. The greatness of the rasa dance is thus shown. The ornament is called sahokti. Paragraph. Being settled in the heart, they made a seat in a very charming manner by using their upper cloths used for covering the whole body, or their breasts, which were stained with kumkum from their breasts because of their crying and separation. Question. How did they manage to give up their shyness and make a seat for him from their clothing? Answer. They did this because they felt he was a true friend. Atma Bandhave. They all made seats using their fine cloth in groups. Very sweet. And now comes a little more difficult section. This is the prayers of the personified Vedas, chapter 87 of Canto 10. Very intense section of the Bhagavatam. Text 16 reads, O Master of the Three Worlds, therefore the wise get rid of all misery by diving deep into the nectarian ocean of your topics, which wash away all the contamination of the universe. Very similar to what was said in this text, this morning's text. Then, what to speak of those who, having by spiritual strength, rid their minds of bad habits, and freed themselves from time, are able to worship your true nature, O Supreme One, finding within it uninterrupted bliss. Commentary. The Shrutis, who desire only the Lord in his pure pastimes, hearing the condition of the Shrutis who recited the previous verse, taking this opportunity, praise Krishna. O Lord of those who reside in the upper, lower, middle realms, since all the Shrutis are attempting to indicate you, the wise reject the previous verse and immerse themselves in the experience of unlimited bliss of your topics, which erase faults, including impressions of karma. They give up all suffering. Therefore, O most attractive Lord, Parama, what to speak of those who have purified their hearts, time, and qualities by your power, those who are Atmaramas and Jivan Muktas, who worship your lotus feet, which give an experience of happiness at every moment. They certainly immerse themselves in your sweet topics and give up all suffering. By that happiness, they give up the happiness of the Atmarama condition. This indicates that those Shrutis, which propound the pastimes of the Lord, have a natural and intense relationship with Bhagavan. Otherwise, they would not speak such a verse. From Brihat Aranyaka. The chief Shruti statements in this regard are as follows, quote, one should not contemplate many words. It is merely a waste of time. Or from Rig Veda, Yasha Nama Mahad Yashaha. His name is most famous. Again, Rig Veda. Only he may fully enunciate the heroic deeds of Lord Vishnu, who can count all the particles of dust in the world. The supporting Shrutis are as follows. From the Shringatapani Upanishad. All Devatas, persons desiring liberation, and Brahmavadis offer respect to the Lord. The highest principle within all the Shrutis is described in this morning's verse, 11:11:20. Creation refers to his glancing over Prakriti. And last but not least, short, Jiva Goswami commenting on this verse in Krama Sandarbha just refers to Bhakti Sandarbha, where he writes, the wise man does not accept useless Vedic words, Giram, in which there are no descriptions of my pastimes, karma, which purify, or pavanam, purify the universe. Pastimes of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Superior to that, however, are descriptions of the birth of Krishna and Rama among the avatars. So this is now Jiva Goswami. I guess this is how or why the BBT translation says Krishna Balaram, and it's borrowing from Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha, where he doesn't say Balaram, he says Rama, but Rama can mean Balaram or Ramachandra. So, superior to that, however, are descriptions of the birth of Krishna and Rama among the avatars, the shelter prema for the universe, Ipsitam. Narada has said, 1:5:22, a celebrated verse, Idam hi pungsas tapasakshutashyava svitasya suktasya shabodhi dattayoho avinchutur tam kavibir nirupito yarutama-shloka guణanavarnanam. Translation. The unfailing cause of perfection from men's austerity, study the Vedas, performance of sacrifices, chanting of mantras, practice of Gyan, and giving charity is defined by the wise as glorifying the activities of the Lord. Finally, he quotes Lord Chaitanya, citing a verse that's found in Padyavali, where Lord Chaitanya is the purifying avatar for Kali Yuga, says, Upanishads which, though heard, do not produce a melted heart, trembling of the body, tears, and hairs standing on end, are far inferior to the nectar of the Lord's pastimes. Padyavali 39. Now, Padyavali is a wonderful writing of Rupa Goswami, kind of a collection, an anthology or compendium of some of his favorite verses on themes. And the themes are grouped, and then there are verses that address those themes, and so forth. Interestingly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a similar book, much larger, but it is from verses from the Bhagavatam, where he took so many, like an index of so many topics the Bhagavatam speaks about, and then just collected verses from the Bhagavatam that illuminate that particular topic. Bhagavat Arka Marichimala. There's not much explanation. It's just collections of verses, just relishing the topics of the Bhagavatam from the verses of the Bhagavatam, just organizing it. It gives us an indication that our acharyas really love the Bhagavatam. They love relishing the Bhagavatam in the association of others that relish the message of the Bhagavatam. In our own little way, that's what we're attempting to do by going through these various commentaries. Is taking the topics sequentially laid out by Krishna to Uddhava on perfecting bhakti. So here's the illustration for text 20, and this is it. We want to see the screen, please. Not me, we want to see the screen. There. My dear Uddhava, an intelligent person should never take to literatures that do not contain descriptions of my activities, which purify the whole universe. Indeed, I create, maintain, and annihilate the entire material manifestation. Among all my pastime incarnations, the most beloved are Krishna and Balaram. Any so-called knowledge that does not recognize these activities of mine is simply barren and is not acceptable to those who are actually intelligent. So we had this discussion yesterday, I'm sure you remember. It was a good question. Is this offending the scriptures? And we discussed that. So certainly Krishna is not making an offense to the scriptures. It's making a compare-contrast. The purpose of anything Vedic is to bring one to the position of Krishna's shelter. And if it leaves one short of Krishna's shelter, then here it's barren, or it's useless, or other kinds of language. So say it in reverse or conversely. The purpose of everything that's Vedic, and the purpose of all real knowledge, is to bring one to that position. And if one doesn't know that, then it's the transcendental fruit is not realized. There may be other fruit that's realized. Something that's in the mode of goodness, or something that's in the mode of passion. Or for that matter, something that's in the mode of ignorance. Knowing how to destroy others by Vedic mantras and other things like that. But it's the real fruit of the Vedas is being missed. So the Vedas give inspiration to everyone according to their modes of nature. Like a desire tree fulfills the desires of anyone who approaches the desire tree. And knowing that there's different modes, the Vedas give inducements or enticements or stimulations for people in various modes. But it's that the purpose of that is to elevate and gradually lead one to goodness, and gradually lead one to bhakti, and gradually lead one to Krishna. So the not acceptable to those who are actually intelligent is overlooking those literatures that are not understanding or not explicitly expressing the goal. So we covered this topic yesterday. Let's see if there's some discussion. $7:41. You got up late this morning? Yeah. Got to bed late last night.
Maharaj, it's just really nice to hear Krishna's position, Bhakti's position, Bhagavatam's position, again, being glorified in so many different ways in the Bhagavatam. It's just so joy producing. And this word, I was thinking the Krishna and Balaram being mentioned as, even though the verse doesn't say, but this word ipsitam is actually like what is desired. So it's kind of what is desired. It's also like what Lord Chaitanya, Prema Pumartha Mahan, that shelter of Krishna is the desired goal of all the Vedas. So therefore it's indirectly communicating
correct.
that.
And so those who are wise, they can extract from the indirect.
I was also wondering, there was a section from Vaishnava Toshini where there's the description here that you read about how upon seeing Krishna, the gopis were completely, their hearts were completely fulfilled or satisfied, something like that. And their previous fear that Krishna might disappear vanished. I was just curious about that. How come they don't? Was it
my understanding of statements like that is like we were discussing yesterday evening. No, the discussion about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. So the evening before, chapter 15, canto 10. Rasa, bhakti rasa moves in waves. And so a wave may go up, and they collide with other waves, and then that wave may go down, and so there are moments when they feel like it's described, and in the very next moment they're feeling apprehension, Krishna may leave. So it's just a snapshot of a motion picture. For a moment they were feeling like that, and so it's being expressed by Shukadev, who knows their feelings. They were feeling that it was out of their mind now, for that moment at least.
Okay.
Normally we hear that even when meeting with Krishna, there's some tension that he will be going after some time.
Right.
But there apparently there's moments where that's gone from their mind. They're just fulfilled.
There's a question online from Sucharita. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, is reading books on self-help management techniques, example on time management, etc., detrimental for a sadhaka devotee, though they might help in their profession?
Good question. I would say it depends. And the depending factors have to do with the absorption that you or some other sadhaka have in the essence and spirit of bhakti. So those who have that essence and spirit of bhakti can draw without detrimental effect. And those that don't have that pronounced and significant spirit of bhakti, by spirit of bhakti it means the intention that Krishna should be pleased in all things, then it can be detrimental. Then you can go to the other side of that. On the other hand, supposing somebody doesn't have much bhakti and they want to utilize their time well, but although largely it's for fruitive purposes or centered on the self, not centered on Krishna purposes. So, is that going to be okay for them? Well, they're going to do it anyways. So, for such a person, make it a healthy investment in bhakti literature. But when they do this, others, at least those that have a modicum of bhakti awareness, that is, a taste for the topics of Krishna, when doing those other things, you understand it's putting a brake pedal along with a gas pedal simultaneously. It's decelerating your spiritual progress. But so now go to the other side. When the bhakti principle is sufficiently operating in one's life, then that can be quite helpful. Now there's a wave. In my observation, this is a sociological observation, there's a wave of interest in such things for various reasons, the spectrum of reasons. People don't have strong bhakti and they're finding something over there, so they go over there. Or they want to improve their bhakti and so they take help. And then there's very mature devotees that are understanding, we're not so expert in different fields. And so drawing from expertises of those in different fields, it's beneficial for the organization and maybe for an individual or a collection of individuals, a group, to draw from. However, my recommendation, my thought process is, those that are mature, let them assimilate that understanding and Krishnaize that understanding and make it available. Because there may very well be something that's valuable in that domain, those other domains that are not given due importance in the Krishna Bhakti life of our contemporary members. Say it differently. Everything is within bhakti. You don't need anything but bhakti. So just do bhakti and everything is there. Then there's another, for example, speech that's like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So there's a way of speaking the truth harshly. And there's a way of twisting the truth, maybe not even intentionally. And there's a way of speaking the truth where you're just oblivious of its impact on others. So, therefore, understanding how to speak in a compassionate way. Speak the truth, but in a compassionate way. That's a Bhagavad Gita teaching. So there's skills how to do that. Nonviolent communication is a skill that's very useful for the devotee or the devotee community. And it would sure be nice if devotees could learn how to have nonviolent communication. Especially for those who are on the receiving end of violent communication. And it gets pretty raspy sometimes. So it's a skill that's very valuable. And there are devotees that have taken the time and trouble to learn those skills, etc., and are ready to Krishna-ize all of that for the devotee community. So that's a better approach. But, sometimes the pendulum goes this way, and sometimes the pendulum goes that way. So back to the question, is it detrimental? It depends on some of those variables.
Sri Radhika sent me a question yesterday.
Sri Radhika?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's been trying to catch up. She's a little behind.
Uh-huh.
But she had this question as she was hearing. The repeated references to a cow being useless. Cow being useless.
Useless.
If she's not providing milk, seem very harshly utilitarian to me.
Yes.
It
seems like that to me also.
This is the same argument used by some to slaughter cows after their reproductive phase of life.
Yes.
There also seem to be an innuendo devaluing women who do not produce qualified offspring. I cherish Vedic culture for its recognition of the inherent value of every living entity rather than assigning worthiness based on externals. Without hustling for worthiness or belonging, there is a place for everyone in Krishna's heart and home.
Yes.
Am I using modern context to analyze Shastric statements that do not fit such a lens? Will you please comment?
To some extent, I mean, the statement has a purpose, and the purpose isn't casting aspersions towards women that don't produce valued offspring, etc. The cows that don't produce milk, it's like useless. It's not meant like that. That my understanding is it's not meant like that. Rather, it's to illustrate a certain point. What's the certain point? The futility of doing something that the end result of that something, this is now from a material analysis only, there's no fruit. So as there is no fruit from material endeavors that are like this and that and the other, so spiritual endeavors should bear fruit. And spiritual endeavors that should bear fruit. It's similar to, your question, Sri Radhika, is similar to the question yesterday about, is this offensive to the Vedas to say the Vedas that don't do this, they're useless? It would sound like that's what it is. And that's one of the 10 offenses against the holy name. So one might think of it like that. One might think of these references to cows that don't bear milk and mothers that don't bear good offspring as, aspersions. And it's, or in the category of offense or minimizing that which is a real virtue of Vedic. So you'll go the other side. Religion, Prabhupada's speaking about religion. All religion has as a purpose to love God. So how can one be religious if one doesn't love God? So you can say that. Well, wait a minute, you're being critical. And it's understand the spirit of what's being said, and it's okay. Our modern discomfort of being broad and accepting and so on. And in fact, what the Vedic literature does is it's all encompassing, because truth is truth is truth. I recommend, Sri Radhika, that you listen to I think it was a podcast interview with Radhika Raman. Maybe I forwarded this to you already, where he's describing, no, it was with Yogeshwar. Anyway, I can't remember who it was. With Yogeshwar, I think. Yeah, with Yogeshwar. And he is describing what it means to him to be a practicing Vaishnava and a teacher of religious studies. And in his personal acknowledgement of religious studies, that there's truth in different persuasions. And one of his expertises as a professor is to appreciate truth that's within different persuasions, although it's not as rich and in full as the Vaishnava tradition that he grew up with and embraces. But giving respect where respect is due. And then you can go, the pendulum can move slightly the other side, where there's no acknowledgement of the personality of Godhead, then that Vedic literature will bear no intended fruit of the Vedas. So it's not disrespecting the Vedas, and it's not disrespecting other religions, but making distinctions is fine. So that's, it's a little delicate, but I understand the question in part. I understand it because I felt the same, specific to the cows. I didn't notice the aspersion towards women that don't bear good children, because there's all kinds of people and there's all kinds of living entities by the Lord's arrangement, and people are in different situations by the Lord's acknowledging their guna and karma. So we don't judge if somebody's got this karma and somebody's got that guna. We recognize what it is. But as far as bearing real fruit, it's not going to bear real fruit, the fruit of love of God. That's where that comment is coming from, not the other side. That's my understanding anyway. Next.
From Girivaradhari Prabhu. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Is Karma Kanda literature useless? Bhagavatam also says that Karma Kanda literature and Karma Kandis are to be respected.
Yeah.
How do we understand?
So we just covered the same topic. If it's seen absolutely disconnected from, and it's not meant to elevate one to Krishna Bhakti or Vishnu Bhakti, then you can describe it in a certain way. On the other hand, it's to be respected because it's helping people who have no deep spiritual affinity, but they want material resources. And so, with respect to the Vedas, they're becoming elevated. Gradually, they're becoming elevated. So that's where the respect goes. And elevated towards what? Elevated towards the goal. Vedaischa Sayarvairaham eva Vedyo. All the Vedas have that purpose, to know Krishna. Even the Karma Kanda section, although people don't recognize it. So there's two sides to the same topic. Next. That's it. Anything? No? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.